My name is Pamela Bozanich. I was the lead prosecutor in the first Menendez trial, which occurred in 1993 up till January of 94. This was a very well-planned attack. I believe that at least one, if not both parents were asleep when it started. I think Jose Menendez was shot in the back of the head while asleep. And the mother didn't die right away. She got up to run. I didn't even know that till the blood expert told me that she had blood on the bottom of her shoes, which means she'd gone to run, which we learned later from their testimony was what happened. And then they went outside and reloaded so they could make sure to slaughter their mother. I'm sorry, I think those facts alone warrant the sentence that they have been given. I think that everybody's caught up in the idea that if they were abused, they should get out, and if they weren't abused, they shouldn't. And that's not the law, and that's leaving aside the fact that I don't believe the abuse excuse. Basically, the courts have said throughout the years of appeals that they are not entitled to get out of custody based on abuse because of the premeditation involved. The law doesn't permit you to kill your parents because one of them is a child molester. That's not a legal excuse. And in this particular case, even if they'd had 30 people to come and testify that Jose Menendez had buggered them, they still wouldn't have gotten the imperfect self-defense instruction, which would give them a manslaughter. The law in California does not allow it, but they don't deserve freedom. They just don't. And the idea that they might be rehabilitated, well, the fact that they did okay in prison doesn't mean a thing to me. Most people do okay in prison. I'm sure the prison authorities will say that they don't pose a threat to the community. To me, that's not the issue. The issue is they slaughtered their mother. They slaughtered their father, and they should stay in prison because the crime itself is so bad that I don't care what they've done in prison. I don't care how many kids they've mentored. One of the things I mentioned in argument is, why didn't they join the military? Lots of people, like my father, left an unhappy childhood by joining the military and go serve your country. And they said, well, Jose Menendez would have found us and he would have killed us. Yeah, right. I mean, that's totally unbelievable. The problem they always had was, what about mom? Now, they told Dr. Oziel that they deliberated about killing mom and they really thought hard about it, but they decided, you know, she would really be miserable without dad, so we'll go ahead and kill her. Well, that's not why they killed her. They killed her because she was busy changing the family will in the computer. And a couple days after the murder, they hired this kid to come in who was a computer expert to erase the computer because they feared that they were getting disinherited. There was so much that they did that belies the idea that they were victims of some awful suffering, but they were just people who wanted to divorce their parents, and you can't get alimony unless they're dead. And that way you get an inheritance. Now, the writ of habeas corpus is what was filed a year and a half ago, which says we have new evidence. And Mr. Hochman, the new DA, outlined very clearly about a week ago why it was inappropriate for a writ of habeas corpus to be granted. In addition, the Court of Appeals from the Ninth Circuit, which is fairly liberal, said that the sex abuse was irrelevant to the issue of the murders, which is kind of the point now, which is kind of what I've been saying. The sex abuse is irrelevant because the facts of this case don't justify the giving of a manslaughter instruction. And if you don't get the manslaughter, you're guilty of murder. And in this case, it's premeditated murder because they said they planned it out. I mean, they basically testified to all the premedication, including they went out and practiced with the shotguns. Or they tried to practice. I think they couldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't get in.
They couldn't get in because the place didn't allow shotguns. They could be resentenced on they could, as a matter of mercy, which is pretty much what that newer statute is about, I think. Maybe be given a lesser sentence on the father, but I don't know how you justify giving them a lesser sentence on the mother. I mean, the woman who gave birth to them, her blood was all over paperwork she was filling out for Eric's parking pass at UCLA. I mean, it was just like, ugh. I can't see anybody in this state who needs to run for re-election, which judges and DAs and governors have to do, even if you want to be president. I can't see any of them letting them out. It's just, it's too distasteful. It's been 30 years since the first trial. I mean, that's a long time. And so during that time, people have been able to create a new narrative about the boys, the brothers, and how sad they are. And they weren't. They went in and they slaughtered their parents. And I wish I didn't keep the autopsy photos because I became a mother late in life and I didn't want my daughter to find them. But the parents looked like hamburger meat by the time they were done with them. And it was just a brutal, awful shooting. And they shot the father in both knees, and then told the police that it was probably the mob that did it. And then Lyle went out and hired these phony security guards because he didn't want the mob to come after him, and he knew all along who did it. And it's funny because the police officers who first arrived at the scene told the detectives, there's something going on with these two. They were acting so squirrely, and they were not believable when they're out on the lawn crying and yelling because their parents were dead. Having it drag on for 30 years, did you ever think that would happen?
No. Did you?
No.
Yet here we are.
And here we are. And it's kind of like, well, you just go away. You killed your parents, you slaughtered your mother. Would you just go away and do your time? Anyway, that's all I have to say.